Hello and welcome to the Superwoman Wellness Connection channel. My name is Kim Goeltom and I'm a certified master wellness coach and your host for this series. I am so excited to be introducing you today to Molly Summerholder. Welcome, Molly.
Hi, thank you for having me.
I'm so excited to have you here, and you are going to be sharing so much information today on a topic that is not talked about as often as I think it should be talked about. And so I'm just really excited to have you here and for the audience to be able to learn from you. And so for those of you who have never met Molly, she is the owner and founder of Swan and the Lotus Yoga and Wellness. And I'm going to let Molly share a little bit about her background and what she does and how she got started. Welcome.
Thank you, Kim. Yeah, so I am a certified wellness coach, but I go by a woman's embodiment coach now. And I'm also a certified yoga teacher. And I mostly infuse Bhakti yoga, which is the devotional practice of yoga, into my classes. So into the physical, the breath work, and all that fun stuff. So I started my wellness and yoga journey over 20 years ago, I should say. And I started teaching about 13 years ago and have loved teaching yoga ever since. And then a few years ago, I decided to get my wellness coaching certification with the IAWP. And from there, I started exploring, like, how can I help people in this journey that I'm taking? And many of the times it just kind of flowed to eventually to where I'm at right now. And where I'm excited to be, which is helping women specifically with the pelvic floor. My own personal journey started basically my entire life. It became more prevalent that there was a problem during puberty when I wasn't able to use tampons and pelvic floor tightness. And I kind of just chalked it up to it was hereditary. My mom and sister had the problem. Yeah. They got over it. I'll get over it too. And I didn't. I got the brunt of it. And from there, it caused me to be on a journey for the past, since puberty, right? Over 37 years. And it allowed me this opportunity to explore my body and turn into pelvic floor physical therapy and go through that process. And during that process, I used my experience and what I was learning from my pelvic floor therapist and my coach, or my yoga, I should say, experience, and started teaching yoga for women's health. And I incorporated information about the pelvic floor and all the things I teach now for the last 5 years. And then again, just recently decided to do that as a full-time direction into my wellness coaching. So that's kind of my story. It's a lifelong journey. So you never fully heal the pelvic floor. In a way that feels like you never have to do the work. You always have to keeping it healthy and happy and strong, regardless if you have issues or not. It's an area of our body that needs our support, and we forget about it. So my mission is just to educate women about this space, show them the tools that they need, and even go deeper if they are having issues and conditions like myself and what's out there.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's one of those things, I'd say with like in any area of wellness, it's lifelong, right? But yes, it is definitely a missed piece that we don't get to really, we don't think about. It's just not something you hear, you don't really grow up having those kind of conversations. We don't really talk about those kinds of things. And so it's great to create a lot more visibility for people to start, feeling comfortable having those conversations and learning and more. And so what is it that you could share with superwomen that are watching that are like, ooh, how do I know if this is something that I should be listening to and know more about?
Yeah, so I'll briefly just explain first what the pelvic floor is, because some people might not know what that portion of their body is. So the pelvic floor is the area that we secrete out of our body. We have two openings. We have our nose and our mouth and our eyes even, where we expand our breath and we release those types of toxins from our upper body. And we know that that's really important, what we put into our body. And then our second opening is our lower part, our pelvic floor, and that's where we secrete from our body. So that's another realm of toxins. So what we put into our mouth has to be released at some point. Yeah. And the pelvic floor is in, like, there's those sit bone muscles, there's the pelvic bone muscles, and then there's this whole sequence of 13 different muscles and 3 layers of muscles that have no bone structure down there. That's all made of muscles
Wow.
that have to do that work on a daily basis. And for women, it's also where we can expand and give birth. It's where our uterus lies. So if we have issues with menstruation, menopause, all that kind of stuff, we have to have a good, healthy pelvic floor. It's also an area that's really important for our sitting ability as well. So our low back, it's all connected. So even hips are connected to this space. So it's really all the lower body and the muscles that make up to that area. So it's a very dynamic area.
Yeah.
And like I mentioned, it's the second opening of our body. And so it's actually connected to this upper part as well. So the 2 openings are connected. And so one of the first tips that I give people is noticing if you have a tight pelvic floor, it's because you might be tightening your jaw.
Oh.
So yeah, so when we tighten our jaw, so say when we're doing workouts and we're lifting, or even when we're doing yoga practice or just sitting and we're working and we're really tense. So we always think about releasing our upper body and just releasing that. But when we release our upper body and our jaw, we're actually releasing a lower part of our body too. So we want to make sure that we have our jaw is relaxed, our face muscles are relaxed, and that will relax our pelvis. Also, we want the muscles that go down our body to be strong. So there's the 6-pack. This is the front layer that we see. There's layers behind it. These other layers are called our transverse abdominal muscles, and these other abdominal muscle layers that literally line from our ribs, upper chest area, and then all the way down to our pubic bone. So down into where our uterus is and our bladder. And so this whole area has to be tugged in. As we get older or have surgeries, it becomes less and less. It can have scar tissue. So we want to do exercises to help with that. So those are the 2, when I talk about how can we have a healthy pelvic floor, is learning exercises to reset your pelvis, work on your core, and relax your jaw. So important. And then the second one that I would recommend is logging how much you go to the bathroom when you pee. So sometimes we don't allow ourselves to fully release all the urine, so that can cause leakage. It can cause dripping. We might have an overactive bladder, so we feel like we have to go all the time. And we can do things once we are aware to start retraining the bladder. So it's like anything else in our body, we can retrain it. We also want to make sure that we're listening to this space because, like I mentioned, the tightness in our body lifting, we can have prolapse that happens if we're pushing too hard. So prolapse doesn't have to be because of pregnancy. When the organs drop down, it means those muscles lost their strength in some way. So it could be from coughing, it could be from sneezing improperly, laughing improperly. It can be picking up something that's really heavy and oof, you push it out. It can be causing yourself to go to the bathroom too hard. So looking at that. And one of the tips to help with that urination, if you're going constantly, is again, starting to log how much you go to the bathroom, what you're drinking, and also about 8 ounces of water every hour and a half. So spreading out your water intake. We're really great about, oh my gosh, I forgot to drink water, and guzzling it down.
Right.
And then we have to go.
Right.
And so if you spread it out throughout the day, that will help you, as well as getting rid of that going to the bathroom before you go on vacation, right? Like, you know, mom always told you, go to the bathroom before we leave. Don't do that. You're training your bladder to go when it's not completely full. And so there are some other things you can do to train, but those are kind of the go-to at this point. And then the last one, the other part that comes out of your body is your poop. And this is another one. So we have, you know, the uterus, or, you know, depending, then we have the bladder, and then we have the rectum. And so this is another place, again, that you can overpush. You can get, you know, hemorrhoids, all these things can happen. And one of the things that we can really make sure is sitting properly when we go to the bathroom. So we've joked about the squatty potty,
right?
But it's so important. Also, a lot of us, when we're stomach cramping or whatever, we punched over. You want to sit up tall. You want to keep a straight line to go to the bathroom. You want to give your pelvic floor that space to do what it needs. and scheduling time to go. There's massages that you can do, things you can do to help you be regular,
Yeah.
but also just like making sure that you take the time. Like if it's 15 minutes out of your day to have a really good poop, that's what matters. And also
Right.
exploring what your poop looks like. It will tell you if you're constipated. It will tell you if you're dehydrated, if you're not having a good diet. All that stuff plays into what you're secreting. And also too, when we look at that through pelvic floor physical therapy, they can also determine as well, like sometimes, depending on what's going on, you might be blocking up against, your bladder, and it might not be that you have bladder issues. You might be having the opposite, constipation issues, and that blowing up of the rectum can cause things to be pressured. So it's just starting to bring awareness to the health of that space. So again, noticing where you're carrying your tension in your upper body, so that helps release. Logging your pee, making sure that you're healthy in that, and then logging, how much you're going to the bathroom with your poop and what it looks like is a way to determine your overall health in that space.
Wow. That's fantastic. That's absolutely fantastic. And so where would you recommend somebody starts? Because that's a lot for someone to take in if this is something they're brand new to learning about.
So my recommendation is just always, and this is in the yoga practices too, is just bring awareness. Just start to notice the area, right? So a lot of times we're not even noticing the area to even understand it. So just start to bring awareness again, where am I holding my tension? Where am I holding my stress? Starting to be more observant of, how you're drinking your water or how you're going to the bathroom. And that's just a good starting point. That's when anytime that you want to go further, then you notice something might not be right, then you can reach out for that support to go further. But a lot of times for any therapy that you're going through, physical therapy, they ask you these questions. Or the work that I do with people as well, it's like, well, we don't really know how to discover an issue or something might not be right if we don't know what your patterns are and what's happening where you're at right now.
Yes.
And where can we get you to the next stage? So full awareness in this space is just really what it is. You don't need to know all the layers. You don't need to know all the conditions. Just know that what's normal, like just kind of notice what's normal for you. And then kind of figure out, is that really normal? And that's where, the support comes in.
I love that. I love that. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing. And I'm going to ask you a question that I think some people may be wondering, so if they were to start bringing awareness to this area, really start, paying attention, maybe even start the logging process, what kind of success rate or, outcome could they potentially anticipate?
So pelvic floor conditions and issues are not life-threatening. I just want to put that out there. Majority of the time. They're just really stressful and they're really take a toll on our day-to-day life. So when we're peeing all the time, when we're doing all these things, it causes more stress.
Right.
And when we're looking towards the success rate and how we heal it, we have to look at our stress. So not only are we going to be able to successfully, majority of the time, like I said, it's a lifelong issue, and they're just starting, the medical field is just starting to recognize that this is an issue.
Sure.
It took in 2013 for doctors to actually say that pelvic pain for women is real and acknowledge it. And pelvic floor physical therapy is becoming more and more important. But we can fully recover in some way. There are different things that you can get done surgically or non-surgically. And there are ways to retrain the muscle. I'm not going to say you're fully healed because, again, like me, I stepped away and now I'm kind of somewhat back in the beginning, but I know I have to keep up on my therapy. I still have to work the muscle. It's like any muscle that we're recovering. It's the same thing. We know it can come back to a certain point depending on the damage because it's different for everybody.
Yeah.
It can come back at a certain point and it can be functional. And so you can solve it in a way that is not stressful anymore for you. You can go about your daily life. You can do the things that you need to do but it takes a lot of dedication. It takes a lot of work. And again, it's sometimes every single day you have to do it. It's like drinking water, eating healthy. It's all the things that if you keep up with it, you'll be able to fully feel that benefit from that space. And
Nice.
and so it's really that combination of stressing and stress management tools and the actual tools of exercises or whatever you might need, because there are a lot of things out there depending on where you're at.
Yeah, absolutely. And so if anyone is resonating with what you've been sharing, where is the best way for them to connect with you via social media?
Yeah, so I'm on Facebook and Instagram. Facebook, I'm at Swan and the Lotus Yoga and Wellness. And then on Instagram, I'm Swan_in_the_Lotus, because the name was taken.
Sure,
But
sure.
you can probably just look me up and find me there. And I put a lot of tips and all the things coming up. I always have like master classes and talks about unlocking the pelvic floor. So if you want to learn information, or I actually have a free understanding your pelvic floor guide. So it goes through what it is, and then the main conditions that women can have is included too.
Nice, nice. And I will definitely have in the description of the YouTube video all of the social media links, just in case anybody didn't miss that. Don't worry, you don't have to hit the back button too many times. You can just click the down arrow to look into the description, and you'll have all of those. Because if I remember correctly, you do have a newsletter and a blog as well that they could connect with.
Yep, I have a blog on my website, and then I do a monthly newsletter that you can sign up for that has a variety of wellness tips, including stuff on the pelvic floor.
Nice. Oh, that's fantastic. Absolutely. Yeah. Because this is, we've just like touched just the tiny bit of the surface, tiny bit.
I know. I could talk about it all day long, or I could go into full detail.
That's great. Oh,
yeah.
Well, I was going to ask you, is there anything else you would like to share before I let you go? Because I know you've got a lot on your calendar today as well.
Well, just also, I didn't touch base on this too much, but you'll see if you follow me or connect with me. I also talk about the spiritual connection and the energetic connection to this space in a yogic way. So we talk about not only, how do we manage stress, but I also have people, other experts that come in to help with meditation, to spark that creativity, because that lives in this area. And I also call it our sacred space, because it's a holy space for us, for women, especially because it's where we give birth. And men too, we give birth to creative projects, to new things, new opportunities. And it's also where we hold a lot of our fear, a lot of trauma, a lot of wounds that we don't want to deal with. So that's one thing that, it's not only just working on healing the physical pelvic floor, but I work with my clients on, let's talk about blocks that you might be having on this journey, or, what's been holding you back in the past, and how can we keep you moving forward? And what are you just holding on to? And find some kind of a spiritual connection, because that's what keeps us on the journey.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Well, thank you so much for sharing that. And thank you so much for taking time to be with us here today. I really appreciate it. It was wonderful.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. Well, hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. And until next time, thank you.
You too. Thank you.